when I go online, how much are we missing? Oh, in my head, I see the chair. Okay. That's me. Okay.
A warm welcome and a good morning to everyone joining in. We are truly grateful that each one of you could join us for our February edition of the TECHRx series, Accelerating MedTech Innovation, where we bring to the fore MedTech innovations in India. TECHRx is a collaboration between INC and Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone. INC has had a decade-long history of being a flag bearer, conversation starter, and accelerator of journeys of change makers all across the world. AMTZ focuses on a progressive initiative by being a center for MedTech employment, innovation research, and incubation of startups. Together, INC and AMTZ have collaborated to create a bridge between scientific and social segments of the society with an innovation series of sessions titled TECHRx. Today's session will be a total of 60 minutes, with the last 20 minutes open for live Q&A discussion. So please type in your questions on the YouTube comment box with your name, and the panelists will address them during the Q&A towards the end. Before we begin today's session, let's take a glimpse of the Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone, which is Asia's first integrated medical device manufacturing ecosystem. Let's start with today's session. I'd like to now call upon Lakshmi Pratury. Lakshmi is a business leader, entrepreneur, story curator, and former venture capitalist. She is passionate about community building and technological innovation, which has led her to found INC. Please welcome Lakshmi Prathuri, CEO of INC. Lakshmi, can I please request you to switch on your audio and video?
Hi, thank you, Ritika. And welcome to all of you, and a big welcome to Titch Robinson. So I'll give a very brief intro, and hopefully, definitely in the conversation, we'll get to know more about Titch Robinson's journey. Um, the thing that's most interesting for me about her is, as a leader of Arie Foundation and, many other things she has done, the thing that comes through is how everything she does enhances human experience. On one hand, whether you take a very traumatic things like a wound management and spinal cord injury and combine that with understanding your body, like whether it's the gut biome or mindfulness or anything, everything else that's going on. And then add to that the kind of maintenance that we need to do with our bodies, be it natural juice therapy or plant-based food, etc. She's someone who's looking at all these things in its holistic sense and how to create a world-class institution where there can be research as well as treatment as well as maybe some discoveries that have a really really far-reaching impact. So with that, I really would like to start my conversation with Titch Robinson. Titch, welcome to the conversation, and welcome to TECHRx.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Yeah, and I want to say, I want to start with you. What a journey you've had. I see that you've done high school in South Africa to now in South India, where you moved from Bangalore to Visakhapatnam. I mean, you're getting deeper and deeper into the core of India. And so, would love to know, your early interventions or something that has led you to do this, like things like wound management, spinal cord injury. These are very, very specialized things. And you've done your MBA at Leicester University, etc. So it's not come by just being in the medical profession. It's something must have driven you. And it was, we were just chatting a little while ago. We talked a little bit about how you ran away from South Africa because it was the time of the apartheid and you couldn't understand why a skin color should decide somebody's rights and dignity. And so maybe just tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you into this field.
Okay. Recently, I was reflecting on my childhood, and I remember when I was about 8 or 9, my father used to go and play chess with a young man who was in the hospital in our local town in South Africa. And Mike had a spinal cord injury. He was a quadriplegic. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that this guy was paralyzed. And he would play chess with a stick in his mouth and point to the piece that he wanted moved, and my father would move it. And I used to say to my dad at the time, I'm going to become a brain surgeon. I had no clue what I was talking about, but I'm going to become a brain surgeon and I'm going to find a way to heal Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My life took many different directions and I forgot all about that story. Then in 2004, what started me on my current journey, in 2004, my C5 vertebra in my neck was degenerating. And the allopathic doctors decided that they could remedy it with a little surgery, which I refused. And then cortisone was their next line of defense, and I refused that too, and they lost interest. And then a girlfriend of mine introduced me to Siddhi Samadhi yoga. I had no idea what yoga was. Truly, I had no idea what yoga was. I thought it was a bunch of mad people that stood on their head and chanted. But because I was in so much pain, I was prepared to try anything that was non-invasive. And I remember my first night of the 10-day program, I sat in a very tiny room in Dubai. I lived for 32 years in Dubai, at the feet of a guru. I was the only Gauri in a room full of 75 Indians. And I sat next to the exit door because I figured if any mumbo jumbo came out of the guru's mouth, I was gone. And to my utter amazement, the first 3 things that came out of his mouth were, we are what we eat. What we put across our lips becomes our body. All diseases caused by this. We don't breathe deeply enough. We don't get enough oxygen into our body to heal. And we never put our mind into a state of equilibrium. We've got 2 mobile phones. television, laptops, computers. And so he got my attention. And I followed the course for the 10 days and was amazed that after 5 days, the pain in my knees that I had disappeared. And the protocol was raw food, raw plant-based food, pranayama, meditation. And within 2 months, my neck was completely fine. And I became fascinated on the benefit of raw plant-based food, oxygen, pranayama, and meditation. And for 3 years following that, I was 100% raw food vegetarian. And it led me into a lot of research and discovery. That whole process changed the way that I viewed my life. I have a friend, if ever anybody meets him, Duncan will be very happy to tell people, Titch before yoga was a Rottweiler with lipstick. And now she's a much calmer, tranquil person. And it led me to want to give something back to society. As my life changed, as I healed, as my body healed, my temperament healed, I decided I wanted to give something back to society, and I became a volunteer in Rashid Hospital. All of us in Dubai are visitors to the country. We have residence visas, which can be revoked at any time. And many of the people in the hospital, especially back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, it was the boom years, building years in Dubai. Many accidents, many people landing up in hospital with very bad injuries. And in 2007, my path crossed with a young man called Sanjay. He was from Kerala. He'd had a car accident, and he was in Rashid Hospital for 2 years. And I saw him every day for 2 years. So we became quite good friends. And when he needed to come back to India, he needed a non-medical escort on the plane. He was a stretcher case. We take up 3 rows of seats and a stretcher comes into the aircraft. And because he didn't have any tubes up his nostrils and oxygen canisters, he just needed a non-medical escort. And it was something I'd done regularly to escort somebody back to their country, because I have a British passport, so many countries I can access more easily than others who were also great volunteers in the hospital. As we got in the ambulance to go to the airport, the spine surgeon came to Sanjay to say goodbye, tapped him on the shoulder, said, well, Sanjay, you're paralyzed. You'll lie in a bed for the rest of your life. Maybe you'll find something to do on the internet. The doors closed and we headed off for the airport. And it was like ice bucket challenge to me. I thought, how can this 27-year-old guy, as he was at the time, 2009, lie in a bed for the rest of his life? He will die from depression. And where these words came from, I guess only from the divine. I looked at Sanjay and said, as long as I'm taking breath, you will not lie in a bed for the rest of your life. I'm going to find a way. And so this journey of spinal cord injury started. I landed up taking Sanjay to Indian Spinal Injury Center in Delhi. We were there for 18 months, and we took him from not a muscle in his body moving to fully independent in his wheelchair in 18 months.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Really amazing. Yeah, continue. Please continue.
So, unfortunately, in Delhi, I took him to a hospital in UP that had a very specialized gait training machine, no experience, and he landed up getting his left knee compromised somehow. So here was a guy who was walking on and off with just minor hand resting on a shoulder for around 2 hours a day, and landed up now not being able to walk again because of whatever happened on this machine. But the object of the exercise of my whole dream was to get Sanjay back into the workforce. So we had moved from Delhi. I said, I want to start an active rehab center for people with spinal cord injury with a focus on reskill training them back into the workforce. And as I knew Bangalore quite well, I'd visited Bangalore many times. My guru came from Karnataka. I said, let's go to Bangalore. So we jumped on an airplane, sent our goods and chattels on D2D couriers, and arrived in Bangalore. And I tried to start Arie Foundation in Bangalore for 3 years. No support, no contacts, no nothing, just this desire to try something. Started to run out of money and said to Sanjay, well, you'll have to get a job and I'll have to go back to Dubai and see what new business I can start to get some money. And he landed up getting a job with IBM in 2012. He's still with IBM. He can transfer himself very easily in and out of a taxi, onto his bed, all things that 3 of us used to have to lift him in and out of taxis onto the wheelchair. All of that he does himself. He manages himself perfectly. So I then went back to Dubai, became fascinated through contacts that I've met along the journey, got the concept of hyperbaric oxygen, which goes along with my theory of we need oxygen to heal. And I got introduced to a wound management device for healing non-healing wounds. People who sit in wheelchairs for long periods of time can, if they don't have the correct cushion and don't do pressure management, can land up with very nasty pressure sores. So this is how this whole journey started. And it's been an amazing journey.
And when was that? Which year did this start?
So I took Sanjay to Delhi in 2009, and we went to Bangalore in 2011. And I went back to Bangalore to Dubai 2014, but always coming back to India every couple of months. And then I was going to set up a wound clinic with an alternative medical practitioner in Bangalore. I was going to do the nutritional counseling and take my medical device and start to launch it there. And then I got blocked out of India for 18 months during COVID. Came back in September of 2019, had met some people in Dubai, Mala and Suresh Vazarani, who own TransAsia. And they said, you have to meet Dr. Sharma. And I came here, I arrived back in Bangalore on the 10th of September 2021, flew to Vishakhapatnam on the 12th, met Dr. Sharma and the wonderful team here to discuss manufacturing my medical device here, went back to Bangalore on the 14th with an MOU signed to start Arie Foundation here on this beautiful campus. So
wow,
two things happening. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Very blessed. And I really have to give grateful thanks to Dr. Sharma for facilitating this and everything else that's happening in my life right now. Amazing. Yeah.
I want to pick on a couple of things you said. One is, I really want to talk a little bit about the mental resolve you need, what the psychology, the role that plays in this. Like even when you were going through your own journey, or even with Sanjay, tell me a little bit about, I know you talk a lot about mindfulness, etc. What sort of work do you do, or do you think needs to be done more of, especially in a place like India, to build the mental resolve and to create that infrastructure?
It's fascinating for me. India gave the world Ayurveda. India gave the world yoga. I don't understand why every Indian isn't practicing it. It's the most wonderful, amazing lifestyle. I think if every mother, when she falls pregnant with a child, starts to practice mindfulness yoga, and then from the day that child is born, it encompasses the principles, India would be the #1 country in the world without question. And this comes from a Westerner looking at this wonderful lifestyle that is right here in India. Meditation, powerful, really powerful, but very few people practice it. And it's healing. It's really healing. There's an amazing American guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. Some of you may have heard of him. He takes the whole meditation to a completely different level. I think he's had a population of 5,000 or 6,000 people that he's actually put electrodes on their heads to measure the electrical currents in their brain when they're meditating. Remarkable results.
Right. Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah. And actually, there are things that are coming out. Like one of our Ring fellows did a project where he went and studied many yogis and recorded their brain waves when they're in a meditative state, and actually translated into an app that you can put and get yourself into that meditative state. You're absolutely right. Now let's move a little bit from that to regenerative wound therapy. How is it different from in general wound therapy or whatever is done today? In what way, what is going to be would you like to be your approach for regenerative wound therapy that enhances whatever we are doing today medically?
So two things. We'll talk about a wound in general. We think of wounds as nasty looking things on the surface of a skin. A spinal cord injury is also a wound. It's a wound to the spinal column. So for me, my approach is looking at the whole wound realm of how we can do it. Regenerative wound medicine focuses on regeneration of cells. So traditional medicine, for example, would think of doing a heart transplant. Regenerative medicine would look at taking stem cells and regenerating the cells that are damaged rather than doing that invasive, nasty surgery to the wound body. A diabetic foot ulcer. Many doctors amputate because, frankly, they can't be bothered to take the time to clean the wound. But if you remove the bacterial bioburden from that wound bed, a stalled chronic wound will heal. So the device we are working on here in AMTZ right now uses a 15 psi irrigator to remove the bacterial bioburden from the wound bed, and it increases granulation and then brings about reepithelialization. So it's a non-invasive procedure that can save somebody's leg from amputation.
Now, to build this device, Titch, there is a lot of knowledge you need to get. I'm interested, how did you personally get this knowledge? I mean, building a machine is very different than even going through the therapy yourself, right? So I'm sure you have to have a very interdisciplinary team that you need to put together. So tell me a little bit about how do you, I mean, first of all, you have to train yourself in multiple disciplines. You have to be an interdisciplinary person yourself. So tell me, how does someone with an MBA and, healing themselves get into actually building this device? It's an amazing journey. It's not easy. I can't
take credit for building the device. I'm simply taking a product that comes from China and re-engineering it here. For the last
but that itself is a, who's working with you on the re-engineering? I mean, tell me a little bit about your team.
Well, for 7 years, I've said, why can't I make this device in India? And for 7 years, we also have a drape, which completely encloses the wound. So we're not spreading MRSA and Pseudomonas and other bacteria and negative bacteria into the facility. So it makes it healthier for the facility, the person administering, and for the patient themselves. So for 7 years, I ran north, south, east, and west of India, trying to get drapes made, trying to do. India should be a leader in medical device manufacture. After all, we have a very similar population to China, but the mindset is completely different. The mindset in India is very different. But it's changing, happily to say it is changing. And I think the impact of COVID and maybe the blame game on China, rightly or wrongly so, I think has woken Indians up to the fact that, hey, we could do something too. And I'm happy for that. I'm really happy for that. So here in AMTZ, we have a team that are working away on the device. We're just getting the CAD drawings done right now. We'll get a prototype done, and then we'll look for the correct material to make it with and go for production on it. So, I'll be very happy, very proud if we can make this product in India and export. I think I must have been an Indian in a previous life because I love India so much.
Yeah, I always say India is a very binary country. Either people love it or leave it. There's nothing in between. It is you deeply fall in love. When you are in the one zone, or if you're in the zero zone, you're like, oh my God, I can't take it. So anything could happen, and it's wonderful. Actually, it's a very young, dynamic country. And so, there is the device side of things, getting the right team and building it. You also talked about nutrition, etc. So you talk about natural juice therapy. Before we get to plant-based food, let's talk about the natural juice therapy. What are the things, what is involved in it? What are some of the things you suggest that we do on a daily basis?
So my day will start with a green smoothie or a juice, which probably has 17 different ingredients in it, fruits, vegetables, whatever in it. Juicing gives the digestive tract time to rest. And it's liquid nutrition in a glass, and it's into the bloodstream in 15 minutes. So there's not a lot of scientific evidence that juicing works. But if we take it to the step further, which we're going to get to on plant-based food, what is juice? It's from plants. So there's a lot of scientific evidence that plant-based diet and plant-based nutrition works. So why not juice? Comes under the same parameters as far as I'm concerned. And juice a rainbow. Get a rainbow of fruits and vegetables into your system. Look at the nutrients you're getting. When we cook food, we destroy the vitamins and minerals that are in that food. When you cook off, raise up to the temperatures, people look at my plate of food and it's colorful. We look at cooked food and it's basically brown and white, most of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Indian vegetables taste delicious, but they're not really nutritious because by the time they've cooked for so long, they've sat in tiffin boxes for a number of hours. The nutrient value is virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Plus,
so when you say, sorry, just when you said 17 ingredients, just tell us, like, what are all the things you put in, just as an example?
So I would put, if I'm making a juice, I would put in pineapple, red capsicum, green capsicum, broccoli, celery. I can't find celery yet here in Vishakhapatnam, but we're going to have a hydroponic farm on Arie land, and we will grow celery and kale and all the other green leaves that I would like. I would put in cucumber, beetroot, carrot. These are maximum.
And everything raw, right?
Everything raw. Everything raw.
Yeah.
And most of these ingredients that I've mentioned are very, very high in vitamin C. None of us get enough vitamin C into our life. Mm-hmm. Such a necessary vitamin. So these are all high, and they build up the immune system.
Yeah. So this is, and also I think when we eat something, our digestive system has to digest it, right? Yes. But when you give it a liquid, less time that the system has to work, and it, the effect is much higher. But, this moves us into the plant-based food of sometimes there is a emotional barrier. So I feel like I need to eat solid food to feel like my stomach has filled. If I drink something, it doesn't quite is fulfilling. So can we talk a little bit about plant-based food? Like what sort of foods do you use in your therapy, or is good for everyone in general?
Good for everybody. Good for everybody.
Yeah.
I would say 75% of your plant-based food intake should be raw, so that you're keeping the air and you're keeping the nutrients and the fiber intact, and you're eating it. And it takes a long time to chew and masticate that so that you can swallow it. Most people, when they're eating animal protein, they don't chew enough. They don't chew properly. So very large chunks of food are going down into the intestine. Very difficult for the body to deal with. Where with plant-based, it's easy. And the benefit is there. Definitely the benefit is there. There's a wonderful Dr. Baxter Montgomery in Houston, in Texas. He was the first hospital in North America to serve, he's a cardiologist. He was the first hospital in North America to serve 100% plant-based food, 75% of it raw, to his patients. He said, I no longer put stents into my heart patients. They walk out of my hospital happy and healthy. He has a beautiful garden on the hospital grounds. The restaurant is amazing. And he has this certified cardiologist from America, which is so controlled by the FDA and all their rules and regulations, and they don't support generally alternative medicines happily. This guy's getting amazing results. And now several other hospitals have adopted the same lifestyle. So there's proof, it'll reduce cardiovascular illness, reverse diabetes, it's amazing. It's, you know, I never
You
in a
know,
million years thought I'd become a vegetarian, truly. I thought vegetarians came from another planet until I went through the pain syndrome, got relief, and now I'm a convert. So,
you know,
yeah.
it actually that point, gets to the next conversation I wanted to have in terms of what are the obstacles to this kind of an approach, especially in educating and working with the medical fraternity, because either we can take a very sort of a war approach to say, hey, you're wrong, I'm right, kind of a thing, or we can work together, like how the doctor is doing in Houston, in terms of this is not to say you cannot do anything in the in allopathic way, but it's sort of how do we work together. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on it as to how should we work together between the traditional as well as the even more traditional medicine.
Yeah. I think there's a great need for the two to work together, definitely to work together. Doctors are taught in medical school one particular thing, and there's very little nutrition in a medical degree course. I think 4 hours, total nutrition, because doctors are taught how to write synthetic prescriptions for synthetic drugs, which creates an imbalance in our magnificent pharmacy of our human body. I always tell people the human body is the greatest technology on the planet, and we have a very fine-tuned pharmacy inside it. When you are swallowing synthetically produced chemical drugs, it's creating an imbalance. I think back to my own mother at one time. She had low blood pressure and she got tick bite fever. And the doctor prescribed her 2 medications which were in serious conflict, and she nearly died. She nearly died because he never checked the medication that she was taking for low blood pressure would conflict with the medication for the tick bite fever. Just let's write a prescription drug. So I think there's a very definite need for doctors to be better educated when it comes to nutrition. And if I landed up, God forbid, in a hospital bed today and I needed stitches because I got glass cut me or something like that, I'd be very grateful to have that medical doctor there to do that for me. But I definitely don't want him pumping me full then of nasty synthetic drugs. I think there can be a joint venture, if we like, between traditional medicines and conventional medicine.
No, and also I think it is, even if it is an operation that's done, etc., still the food that's given, and like how the doctor is doing in Houston, it can still be very healthy food that you give, and the food and the drinks part of it doesn't change no matter what medicine we are using. I want to talk a little bit. I want to come back to the psychology, mindfulness, etc. Also, the effects of mindfulness differ for the behaviors of the people, right? What is the mindset with which we are going into it, and what is the behavior with which we are going into it? I mean, there are sometimes people come to some, like as you were saying, first when you went to listen to this person, I'm going to sit near the exit because the minute there is anything, I'm out of here. So you could walk into some place with a lot of trepidation, or you could go into it with a lot of belief, or, there's all sorts of mindset. So what tools do you actually use to get people into a state where they're actually listening as opposed to looking at it through a judgment filter?
Just trying to talk to people, lead by example, try and show them that there is a different way of living life. And when it comes to tools to help people to heal, meditation, definitely meditation. I remember saying to my guru after the 10-day program, I'm not very good at meditation. He said, how do you know you're not good at meditation? Well, I don't have this experience and that experience and the other experience. Where did you think of those experiences? Well, this one told me and that one told me and the other one told me. And he said, are you living in that person's body? I said, no. He said, so then how do you know that that experience is what you're experiencing? Mindfulness is being present in the moment, in your personal moment, nobody else's.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
coming to that realization. And for many of us, we're so wrapped up with societal conditioning, and people are all involved in everybody else's business. And please don't take this the wrong way, but in India, people are very, very involved in other people's business.
Yes. Yeah.
I have an amazing, I sit in a room with some amazing young people here. I love being on AMTZ because I'm surrounded by very bright, smart young people. These are the future. And of course, we get into discussions, and I'm a lot older than everybody here, and I've had a completely different life journey to the majority of them. And they're all, I can't do this because what will somebody say? And I turn to them and I say, is that person taking breath for you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Make your own choices in life. Make your own decisions in life. If it's wrong, you only have yourself to blame. And the only way we learn is to fall down and pick ourselves up.
Yeah.
We have to. It has to be our journey. There's nobody else can live our journey for us.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to open it up for questions from the audience, and there is one question from the audience right now, and would love if there's anything from the auditorium in AMTZ, or we'll be happy to take the question. So please, if anyone has questions, please come to the front of the room with the mic, and we can turn the question to you. This question, Titch, is about there are a lot of cases of spinal injury that's seen around the world and in India. Apart from the medical instrument, are you planning to have a center for the rehabilitation based on the lifestyle? What are the other things are you planning to do apart from creating this instrument?
Okay, so right now my architects are in the final stages of the drawings, which hopefully we will submit at the end of February for approval to start the building. And it's going to be a very different center to centers that I've seen and that I've experienced. We will have traditional therapies. There'll be physiotherapy, occupational therapy. We will have Ayurveda. Ayurvedic treatment will be part of the center. Hydrotherapy, which is treatment in water because you're buoyant and you're taking stress and strain off the limbs. We will have a hyperbaric oxygen center. And it's my dream, and I hope it'll happen. I want to do research into the benefit of hyperbaric medicine, nutrition, and stem cells and stimulation on people with spinal cord injury. So that's one area that we'll do. I mentioned earlier we will have a hydroponic farm. So that'll be the food chain supply for Arie Foundation. And hopefully we'll be able to supply the local market with some of our produce. That whole center has to be managed by somebody with a spinal cord injury. So our focus here is going to be looking at job creation, because people need to get back into the workforce, not sitting inside rooms, not being active. So active rehab is what Arie found. Arie actually stands for active rehabilitation, reintegration, Ayurveda, and yoga. That's what the acronym for Arie Foundation is. And we want to see as many people coming to our center and then moving on back into the workforce somewhere.
Now, in the team of the center itself, or approach to it, would you be looking to bring, the medical doctors as well as Ayurvedic doctors, all of them to be together? What sort of an interdisciplinary approach will you have in choosing the team there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope that, we're a rehabilitation center, but we do need to have medical practitioners working with us, urologists, spinal surgeons, and all those wonderful, good people. And I hope that they will learn something as well from the Ayurvedic doctor. On Sunday, I formed an association with a wonderful Ayurvedic doctor here in Vishakhapatnam, and he wants to be our Ayurvedic doctor at the center. His whole family for years, his great-grandfather was an Ayurvedic practitioner, his grandfather, his father, and now himself. So there's a long lineage, and I like that long lineage into these therapies because they've lived around it for their lives. They know exactly what's coming in. So I'm hoping that the conventional medical doctors will come to our center and learn something as well from us. And we can learn from them too. You know, it has to be a joint venture of the medical minds, so to speak.
Right. Do we want to go to the auditorium? Any questions from there, the AMTZ auditorium? Yeah, go ahead. Please tell you, is anybody going to ask a question? Okay, we'll come back to it when someone has a question. Please come to the front of the room and we can ask that. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you, which is also about there seemed to be a lot of work today on understanding our gut bacteria. You know, there is literally, you know, tests you can do and you can understand that tells you about what sort of food you should eat, etc. Tell me a little bit about that. What do you think of that field of study that's coming up? And is that going to be also part of what you want to do in understanding the human body, so to speak?
Oh, definitely. I think the body requires the correct nutrients to keep in homeostasis and to heal. So unless we're feeding our cells with the correct nutrition, how do we want it to heal? And this applies to people with spinal cord injury as well. We need to make sure that they are eating a nutritious, healthy diet to help their cells to heal. If you're eating white rice, you're getting zero nutrition. And majority of hospitals, because it's cheap, this is what they feed patients. But let's feed millet instead of rice. Much healthier, lots of nutritional value. So definitely part of Arie Foundation's protocol will be focusing on nutrition, the correct nutrition for people. People with spinal cord injury have a lot of bowel and bladder issues. They don't have sensation below the level of injury. So bowel management is a tough one for them. They're told from day one, put a suppository up your bum to pass through. But I believe that if we are giving them a nice big green smoothie, lots of green leaves, lots of fiber, it's cleansing, it's cleaning the gut, and it's helping all that matter inside our bodies to pass through the body more easily. So yes, nutrition will be very much part of it, and focusing on the gut biome to keep the people healthy. Yeah.
We have a question from Vinya Sankaran Basu, and saying, wonderful talk and vision. I love Titch's integrated philosophy. She wants to know, what are your thoughts on supporting parents and early intervention? I mean, maybe the whole family. How do
parents,
you?
Supporting, You know, my observation in this whole process is the most taxing people or taxed people with a spinal cord injury are the parents. They go into denial more than the patient themselves. And so it's education. It's educating, training. And now today we have so much wonderful technology available to us. And again, this has come out more through COVID, forcing people to stay at home, forcing people to go and get online education. So there is a wonderful man. He's also British, but he's married to an Indian lady. He's in Baroda, and he's actually making a wonderful online training program For his wife has multiple sclerosis, but she's more or less like a quadriplegic now. She's really wheelchair bound. So it's training the caregiver, because not all parents are necessarily the caregiver. It could be an aunt, an uncle, some relative. They need to be trained. They need to be taught what the procedures are, how to look after this person, and to make them active, not to wrap them up in cotton wool and leave them lying on a bed. They need to become active mentally, physically, psychologically. We need to train the caregiver. Let's not just say parent, but the caregiver, as well as the person who's going to rehabilitate.
Mhm.
I don't like to call them patients. Once they leave a hospital, they're no
I
longer
know.
a patient. For me, they're
I
a
know.
rehabilitator.
Right.
I don't know if there's such an
Right.
English word, but I'm using it.
And also, you were talking about the parents are in denial sometimes.
Mm.
You know, something like a spinal cord injury is very visual. I mean, there's no denial there, I mean,
Yeah.
of what's happening. So, what sort of denials do you see the parents going through?
They think that after a couple of weeks, that person's going to just leave them on the bed, and in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, as the weeks stretch into months, they're going to get up and walk.
Mm. Okay.
Whereas the person on the bed is saying, okay, I've had to accept that this is it. Now, what can I do to make my life more integrated?
Yeah.
And that's something that we really need to work on globally, but especially in India. India is not wheelchair friendly at all.
Right.
Not at all.
That's true. That's true. I think actually I met some NGOs whose only work is to work with city planners to make sure the sidewalks have a dip and buildings, you know, have a permit. As when they get the permit to build, they must have ramps. And there are people who are doing just that.
There's
You
a
know, the thing
wonderful
you
guy
take
in
so for
Bangalore
granted.
doing exactly that. Ramp My City. Yes. Great guy.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly. Yeah. And so, but you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Was there any? I just saw someone come up in the auditorium earlier, walking up. Was it just walking,
We
or
have
is
a
there a
question from the
question?
audience.
Great. Okay.
Hello. Good morning, Lakshmi ma'am. Good morning,
Hi.
Titch. Hi.
Hi,
It's really wonderful project you're handling, Titch ma'am, because you're going to heal wound without, like, your plan is instead of amputating, we can treat wound, right?
Yeah.
So it's really great idea, and also we can treat many people here. I just need to know from you, because you're also collaborated with Ayurvedic doctors, I heard. So psoriasis is something which is, I see people suffering more with longevity and all. Is there anything you are planning for also psoriasis? Because people from here go to Kerala to cure and all. Anything you have planned to set up here?
For psoriasis?
Psoriasis,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, psoriasis, it starts in the gut. So if you clean up the gut and adopt a lifestyle, change your lifestyle.
Okay.
Breathing exercises, meditation, exercise.
Okay.
But most of all, change what you put in your mouth, change what you put across your lips, clean up the gut biome, check vitamin mineral deficiency. I'm very big on vitamin mineral deficiencies. So you need to check vitamin mineral deficiencies, address those, switch to a plant-based diet, definitely remove all dairy product.
Oh, okay.
Dairy product is the number one inflammatory. And that'll change. I mean, we're focusing on spinal cord injury, but at the same time, we'll be nutrition based. So anybody can come to us and take guidance from our team that'll be there.
It would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
And especially in South India, it's very hard to say no yogurt or buttermilk, right? So no dairy is the, you know, is something we are, there's a lot of talk about, and we should really look at it. And it's, you know, our food is so white rice and yogurt and, you know, all these things.
Maida, sugar.
Maida, yeah, right, yeah.
So these are the causes of most of the problems.
So I
Yes,
thought
yes.
putting my suggestion to you, ma'am, if you also start a center for the curing the psoriasis, we can, that may be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
We'll look-
and also, I think as you're, Titch, as you're developing this, and there is, since checking the gut biome and all these are going to be part of it, there could be some applications of it, even though there's not the cure, but some applications of it to multiple things, right? Whether it's your diet, your mindfulness, your what you're talking about is cure for just about everything that is in the world. So there's a question from Laksha Sharma. Great talk, ma'am. In today's age, people are using chemicals and drugs to increase produce and improve the looks of the produce. How should one stay healthy and find the right vitamins with this eminent risk?
So the first thing that people will say to me when I say go plant-based, oh, all our fruits and vegetables are contaminated with pesticides, etc., etc., etc. See, you can make an excuse for anything in this world. If you don't want to change to something, you can make an excuse for it. But if you take your fruits and vegetables and you take 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda and soak your vegetables, or activated charcoal. I'm a very, very big proponent for activated charcoal. Very underrated, but an amazing product. Soak your fruits and vegetables. It will remove the residual pesticides from fruits, vegetables.
Can you talk a little bit about activated charcoal? What is,
activated charcoal?
Yeah.
Activated charcoal is amazing. It's a fantastic pain reliever. You can make an activated charcoal patch or a poultice. Wonderful for pain management, especially for cancer patients. You can make a poultice and put it on the area where it is. You can ingest it and it'll clear out the toxins out of your system. Having said that, you need to do it under the direction of somebody who knows what they're talking about activated charcoal. You can't just suddenly go and buy activated charcoal capsules and swallow them if you're taking medication.
Right.
Because what that activated charcoal does is it sucks up all the toxins, and you've just taken medication for something and it's not giving you any effect. What we would like to do is to get people to take care of their gut biome, stop their chemical drugs, clean up their gut, and live healthy lives. But when you say to somebody activated charcoal, you can also take it internally, then without thinking or being prudent, somebody will buy the capsules and swallow them. And this is where the problem comes in. It needs to be done under correct guidance. But it is an amazing, and it's a wonderful, wonderful wound dressing. Amazing wound dressing, because you put it on the wound and it draws out all the toxins from that wound. And pain, anybody gets a pain, a shoulder, a stiff shoulder, or a muscle tear, a cut, a bite. And activated charcoal is used a lot in hospitals in the emergency room for people who swallowed poison. It's the #1 go-to for poison in hospitals.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the auditorium. I think there are some questions there. Yeah.
Good morning, Lakshmi ma'am. It's always so wonderful to see you. And thank you, Titch, for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Rimi, and my question is again, coming back to food only. And we are talking about keeping what we eat, we become. And there is myriad of information on how your food habits should be. There are some school of thoughts who say, I was going through a book called Food Paradox, Plant Paradox. In that there is theories on the plant-based food that you eat. There should be some restrictions on that also. Then so many things going back to the traditionals, rice is something which is staple, and especially people coming from eastern and southern belt of India. So now we have school of thought saying rice, portion of rice should be taken care of. Now with so many school of thoughts, what do you think? What should be how do we tackle? What to decide? How to decide? Right? Because we don't know. Sometimes we feel, okay, this is better to follow, or that is better to follow, and then you get bored, then you choose another one. So it's keep changing, and there are so many schools of thoughts. How do we decide?
The problem is Google University. We start one degree and then we go to another one and we never complete and finish. You know, you have to think logically. Make sure that the food on your plate is colorful. So we come back to a large percentage of raw plant-based food. And I just said white rice, so people will take that as don't eat rice. Yes, eat rice, but not white rice. And no Indian will eat brown rice. And I'm not talking rice that's been colored brown. I'm talking the one that still has the husk on it, wild rice. Indians won't eat it, but that's where the nutrient value is. It's in that husk. So yes, you can eat rice, but the white rice that you eat has been polished to death and it has no nutrient value. It gives everybody a nice big rice belly, but it doesn't give you any nutrition. So
I know.
I think,
and part of it is your conditioning, right?
Yes.
Especially in a place like Andhra, you know, the white rice and avocado together tastes so good. It can't be. It's changing our own, you know, taste buds. Our own. It's training really, you know, of our own habits.
You know,
is the
we get
biggest thing.
into such mindsets, and we think it's impossible to change.
Yeah.
But if anybody could become a vegetarian, if I could become a vegetarian, everybody can become a vegetarian. I was so anti-vegetarians, vegetan.
Yeah.
You know, look what happened to me. But just, I think people have to think logically about what they're eating. Is Kentucky Fried Chicken healthy? No.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
so
anyway,
one classic example though of this thing. So, French fries and tomato ketchup is considered vegan. But is it healthy? Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
So I don't, you know, people say to me, are you a vegan? And the first thing I'll say is no, because I eat honey. But the second thing I will say to them is I'm a nutritarian. And they look at me and I say, I try to eat nutritious, healthy, plant-based food. That's it. And if you think
Go ahead. There's another question.
Good morning, Titch. That was a wonderful conversation. I'd like to know, as we age, there are certain aging-related disorders which our elders grow, and also for women, especially post-menopause, there are certain hormonal imbalances and complications. Is there a certain protocol which can take care of these as we age? Like this specific through veg smoothies can be compensating for the imbalance of certain nutrients into the elders, probably like osteoporosis onset or arthritis onset, kind of. Is there any such approach or a protocol established?
Well, I had osteoporosis, and I reversed osteoporosis in a year by drinking 1 liter of green smoothie every single day. And how did that work? Because green leaves have calcium, which is a form of absorbable calcium in the body. The pharmaceutical company makes billions out of telling people to swallow calcium tablets. And it's just a pharmaceutical scam. The absorbable calcium for the body comes from green leaves. So, but you also need to look at other nutrients or vitamins that you could be deficient in if we're talking osteoporosis. We produce calcium in the body, but we need vitamin D3 for that to be absorbed properly in the body. We also need magnesium and vitamin K too. And when you have these as a combination, you develop strong bones. Throw in a little bit of zinc and a little bit of magnesium, and you're good to go. But it is possible to reverse osteoporosis, definitely. Definitely.
Would you suggest any such preventive approaches, maybe starting from middle age, so that certain disorders might not ever happen to us? Can there be such approach at all, is what I'm trying to understand.
So that we don't develop diseases?
Yes, probably certain disorders. Maybe
change what you put in your mouth. You have to change what you put across your lips. Simple. It's simple. Whatever we put across our lips becomes our body. All diseases are caused by what we put across our mouth, and vitamin mineral deficiencies and toxins. Remove the toxins, adjust vitamin mineral deficiency, remove dairy product, plant-based diet, pranayama, meditation. Your body heals. Your body heals. I'm living proof of it. I was my own guinea pig. I was my own case study.
And I think that's a great way to wrap up today's session. I think,
Thank you.
Titch, it's been wonderful
you.
to have you, because I think today's
We
session
have
was
one more.
really about not just giving a lesson on what to do, but it's really about somebody who's lived through it, who has healed themselves and is, developing a both scientific as well as a mindfulness approach to it. Titch is developing a machine, an instrument that is going to be manufactured in India that can especially help with spinal cord injury. But there is a holistic approach to plant-based food and natural juice therapies. And as she very succinctly says, what we put into our body becomes us. So it's wonderful to have such a holistic approach, and we look forward to this center coming alive, and many such things may become the blueprint for many things that can emerge across India. And one of the things that comes across very strongly is India has all the ingredients to be at the forefront of this revolution, because so many things have generated here. Now it's up to us to embrace it and productize it and own it and be healthy. So thank you so much for all of your time. And Titch, thank you so much for your time. And to our partners at AMTZ, thank you. And for all the listeners, thank you for your time.
And I want to thank you, but I want to thank India for giving me my healthy life, because it was at the feet of a guru who introduced me to plant-based food, pranayama and meditation, that changed my life. India, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Namaste.